60 years is a long time. We'll be celebrating our 60th wedding anniversary on August the 30th, because it was that day, 1954, and this is 2014, and that adds up to 60 years of married life, and they've been wonderful.
Long time.
And so we are both native Arizonans, and it's been a great experience to be acquainted with all the people that we've known. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, more or less. I was born in St. John's, Arizona, up north, but when I was about 10 months old, my dad got an appointment for a good job to work in Phoenix, so the family moved to Phoenix, and that's where I grew up. Came back from the Navy and lived there again for a year or two, and enrolled in school at Arizona State College. It was called then. At that time, it was a college, wasn't a university status. And my wife was a student there also, and she should begin telling some of the story here now herself.
Okay, I grew up in Safford. We moved to first Scottsdale and then Tempe, and I started at ASU when it was time to start college. That was in 1952 when I met this guy along the way at ASU.
At the Institute of Religion.
Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart. For it's hard, you will find, to be narrow of mind if you're young at heart.
Yeah, there's a very special story about how
We met at the Institute. Kids nowadays go to the Institute, and that's where you meet, and that's what we did. And there was going to be a girl ask boy dance, and I hadn't asked anybody.
sometimes called the Sadie Hawkins stance.
My friends challenged me to get a date, and I said, okay, I'll ask the first guy that walks through the door at the Institute who doesn't already have a date. And guess who that was? That was Ann Udall. I hardly knew him, but he agreed to go. So we went on a date to this prom. Hardly remember it, but that's what happened.
After she come through the door, after I came through the door, and she was seated over there in the lounge with her girlfriends and so on, and they're across the room, quite a distance, not a long distance, but I'm the one that walked through the door, and that was her agreement, that she would ask that man if he didn't already have a date. And I agreed to go. I was tickled to death to have a date because I didn't have any. None of the girls had asked me yet. Maybe they would or would not, I don't know. But anyway.
But he had a girlfriend. So we didn't date after that year. Until after summer, and then that's part of it.
Yeah.
You can go to extremes with impossible schemes. You can laugh when your dreams fall apart at the seams. And life gets more exciting with each passing day. And love is either...
Going on from there, we went to the state fair after the dance. That was in the spring of the year, I think. And then later, through the summer, we didn't...
I went back to Safford, too.
Safford or Salt Lake City. She always spent her summers up in Utah with her family up there. So I didn't see her again until the following, when school started in September the following year.
Right.
There, and that was just before the state fair, and that's when we went to the state fair. That was our next date, I guess, really. Significance. And Ann is not much of a person for big crowds and all the things that go on there, so I don't think she enjoyed it very much, but she endured it just because I'd asked her to go there. So I'll let her explain.
And then we just dated off and on the rest of the year, and in the spring, it was March 23rd, we went on an interesting little morning date, and it was during a little rainstorm. Actually missed a class to do it.
Yeah.
And he asked if I would marry him, and I said, yeah, I think so.
But you ought to tell how secret it was. I just led her on a goose chase. We left the campus, and I told her, we're just going out here to enjoy the beautiful morning. spring morning, March 23rd, and we drove east on Broadway up to what was then Price Road, and it's now a freeway, but at that time it was just a little dirt road out there east of Tempe. And we drove in my old beat-up car. I didn't have much of an automobile to drive in, but it made it out there, and we sat and talked about the weather a little bit for a few minutes. And at a given time, I proposed to her, asked her if she would marry me. And I'll leave it up to her. I don't know if I can't remember for sure if she said yes at the time.
You know, back then, girls didn't necessarily think they were going to get a diamond ring, which was the case. There was no diamond ring, but he gave me a pin that was a fraternity. It was a Delta Phi pin, which means return missionary pin. And I wore that, and that was the engagement.
She wore that Delta Phi pin, return missionary. In those days, they had kind of a fraternity.
In your heart or on its way, don't you know that it's worth every treasure on earth to be young at heart? For as rich as you are, it's much better by far to be young at heart. And if you should survive to 105, look at all you'll derive out
And we were engaged.
So I just got back in time for our wedding. And our wedding was quite interesting because...
You should tell them why you're in Salt Lake, though, than your
Well,
grandfather.
my grandfather was very ill, and he did pass away during the summer while we were there. And then we came back in time to get ready for the wedding. And since we had met at the Institute, and he lived in Phoenix, and my parents at that time, they had sold out again in Safford and moved to Buckeye. So we decided to have our reception at the Institute. So we were married in the Mesa Temple, and then we had our reception at the Institute building. Our wedding was very interesting. The temple used to close in the summer because it was hot, and there was no air conditioning. So the temple was actually closed, but one of the presidency met us there early in the morning. It was a Monday morning of all times, about probably 8 o'clock in the morning, opened the door, all our family went in, got dressed in white, went up, we were sealed, had the wedding, and then we all got in our street clothes again and then went outside. And he locked the door, and that was it. We were the only people in the temple at that time. We got a few pictures outside. They were, of course, in black and white because we didn't have color pictures much then at all. We did have a nice little luncheon over across the street and down the street at the Maricopa Inn. It isn't there anymore. It's long gone, but it used to be a really nice place. Then we had our reception over in Tempe. Very, very hot that day, 30th of August.
Yeah.
1954.
And the only air conditioning they had at the Institute was swamp coolers. They didn't have air conditioning the way we know it today, where it's really cool. It was a swamp cooler, and it blew. It cooled things off enough that we were able to function there, but it wasn't very comfortable. But
then we had a short honeymoon up in the White Mountains. We came home and settled in and went to school, both of us, and worked and did the usual that young marrieds do, just survived and got by.
To 105, look at all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part, you have a head start if you are among the very young at heart. And if you should survive to 105, look at all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part. You have a head start if you are among the very young at heart.
What we lived in when we first got married and got back from our honeymoon, I'd arranged to live in they used to call them Wingfoot, yeah, a little Wingfoot trailer. Military people would use them during the war. And all it was just a main. You go in to a kitchen area, very small, and then there's 2 beds on each side of the trailer. It's kind of a trailer setup, very mobile, easy to move it around. But we lived in that it's very simple and very inexpensive.
Later in the year, we did move to a little nicer place.
Area, but sure, I'm a good hand at giving advice. All you have to do is ask me, and I'll tell you what I think you should do. And the advice, of course, that I would give to all of our grandchildren, we've done that to our 5 children, to stay true to the faith, to have a strong testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and know the scriptures as much as you can, and prepare yourself, those who are inclined to go on missions, to fill a mission if you can, and enjoy the benefits and the blessings of the mission. I'd been able to do that. We didn't mention it earlier, but before we were married, I had been on my mission to England for 2 years, and it was a wonderful experience, and I would recommend that anyone who is, both men and women, but especially the men, the young men, should fill a mission. If the young women are inclined to go, that's their choice, whatever. My wife has a lot of good wisdom in her. She'll tell her children and grandchildren what she thinks they should do.
Well, I am so pleased with what I see out there today with so much chaos going on. I see grandchildren and great-grandchildren making wise choices, and it's such a blessing to see the happiness and joy that all of you have by living the gospel and striving to do what is right and making wise choices in a world that is not conducive to it. Thank you for being who you are and such a blessing in our lives. I think a great blessing for me has always been my education. That's always been an insurance policy, and I'm thankful that I had that education and could use it to supplement our income through the years. I'm grateful that we always felt like we could live within our means and we're not desirous of great things that we couldn't afford. And blessings have come through the years and even now because of financial stability, which we're very blessed. So we love all of you and pray for you each night and morning and all the times in between. We love you.
We feel like traditions are important too, and that's what this gathering is. It's a tradition. We've had family come together for birthdays and twice a year when the general conference of the church takes place.
I love all of you, and I'm proud of you and pleased with what you're doing. Keep it up.
Exactly. I agree wholeheartedly. I always have with my wife. She's the strength of our marriage, our family.
I see the stars begin to shine. I see your colors and I'm done. I'm thirst. All I know is that I love you so much that it hurts. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
not everyone is able to be here to celebrate with us. For one reason or another, a lot have moved out around in various places in the United States, but we pray for them and think about them all the time. And then, of course, we have our little CJ, who's up in heaven and watching us. Aunt Jory and Uncle Dwight have prepared these little bands somewhere called CJ Udall, and it says, "Do your best." And if we can kind of think of him, a lot of the time in our lives, he might help us just along the way to do what is better and best, and we miss him.
Even though
We love him very much.
he was a little Down syndrome baby, still he
did his best.
He did, and we get very emotional about CJ. We love him dearly, and we miss him.
And we'll have a happy, happy party when we're all together again in heaven.